dear students, as I told you in my previous lecture that I will deal here with gynocritics, that means women as writer. But before that, as per my understanding, one of the terms you should know from Sigmund Freud, because the whole analysis of the gynocritical world is against Sigmund Freud and Lacan. So when feminist theorists, feminist thinkers, they started searching the nature of female sexuality, concept of gender, and they started analyzing the basic psychology behind writing. They moved towards psychoanalytical critiques, and large number of the feminist critiques, not only Elaine Showalter, they have done exhaustive study and research over the psychoanalytical critiques like Freud and Lacan. Kate Millett, who is a polemical critic, she goes on to write in her book Sexual Politics about Freud that he's a patriarchal propagandist. So you know that why he is receiving so many criticism and abuses from all the feminist critiques, because the concept of gender, the concept of sexuality, the relationship of men and women which he defines, of course he is not very different than others in his description. He also says that his gender is a construction, but the way he is describing the relationship, sexual relationship between men and women, he automatically gives primacy to men over women, and in this way the biology comes into play in his theory. And this is the problem, or this is the objection of the feminist critiques, that why he is taking biology as the ground of writing, or biology as the main site of women's operation. So Elaine Showalter, she adversely reacts against the Sigmund Freud, and as you know that Sigmund Freud is talking about the basic differences between male and female, and basic difference is obviously the difference of the biology, because the kind of structure a female is holding and the kind of structure a male is holding, it is totally different and different to each other. So as per Showalter, the difference between men and women, it is not matter of operation, whereas Sigmund Freud has already stated in his article number 22, where he is dealing with the theory of the writing, and in another work that he has written with the title Psychoanalysis, that how women, they are inferior by their body, and the chief concept and the chief determinant of the male creativity as per Sigmund Freud is the supremacy of the male body. So Showalter takes this difference between male and female is not the matter of operation, or not the site of operation, whereas Sigmund Freud has declared is as the main site of inferiority of women, and his chief account or the chief notion is the known as the penis envy. It is the idea or concept which means, Freud says that during the psychosexual stages of development, when women, they have a glance over the boy's genital, and when they find it totally different from the themselves, they develop a kind of envious, a kind of hatred, a kind of anxiety towards men, and this is how this concept is known in the world of feminists as the concept of lack. So Helen Sixu, she is writing that more body, hence more writing. That means she is challenging this idea of lack into the idea of excess. So Freud says that women, they are lacking this particular male organ, and because of that they are inferior in their writing. And he goes on to say that women, they wish to be they wish to occupy the male body, and if they fail in occupying the male body, their wish ends with the possession of male child, and their fixation and bonding with the father is the result of this envious nature of female. So all in all, this is just one term I quoted from Sigmund Freud. If you look at the concept of the gender or the physical power he is talking about, then also he is very biased in his conception, and that is all dependent upon the biology. So we may say that Freud has associated this male organ with the power, authority, autonomy. It has power to control the female and to declare women as a mere sexual instrument, just as Kamala Das is writing in her poem Stone Age, that my husband, when he is sitting in the leisure time in drawing room and he is reading his books and he is doing fondling and caressing to me as if I am a statue made up of stone, and I don't have life and I don't have wishes and I don't have my own likes and dislikes. So in the same way, by possessing this particular kind of male body, as per Freudian conception, they become superior. They are having this creativity, and chief determinant of women deficiency in terms of writing, as per Freud, is the lack of the male organ in the female body. But Elaine Showalter, as well as other feminist critics, they have refuted all these Freudian prejudices, and Showalter has taken female body as the source of erecting the massive theoretical framework. And she says that the power is always lying in the female body equally to the male body, just that it is in the dormant state. And why it is in the dormant state? Because I always keep on saying that if you are not exposed to the culture of hunting, how can you know about the culture of hunting? If you have not tasted one particular flavor of ice cream, how can you know that this is the taste of this particular ice cream? So the case is equal with the women, that the things, the idea, the field and the area and the kind of philosophy and thought, they are not exposed, they are not taught, they are not given lesson, then how can you expect that they can come as writer with all those things? So Freud criticizes time and again that women plot, it is chiefly erotic, neurotic, they are talkative, nonsense. And you know, male writers in their writing, always they have defined women in terms of angelic and monstrous images. So why they have done this categorization, male novelists in their novel angelic and monstrous? Because angelic image of the women, that means who is a very obedient kind of lady, obedient woman, not demanding right in the property, and very smiling, placid, motherly woman, then she is angelic image. And if a girl, she is a talkative, she talks a lot, she talks harshly, she talks loudly, and she demands you know, for the property right, and she's talking about her sexual wishes and desire, then she becomes monster. So this is how patriarchy in literature has situated women, that if you go from the set defined norms, you automatically become monster. So Sigmund Freud has given one inferior image of the women, and that inferiority he has suggested on the basis of different biology. So for Showalter, this difference of biology is not the matter of operation, or it is not the main site of women weak stance in writing. Rather, she says that this particular difference of male and female can be the greatest tool for autonomous writing. So as I have already given hint to you in my last lecture, that gynocritics, that means the writing that is dependent upon the basic differences of male and female. So gynocriticism begins at that point when we stop ourselves fitting into the linear tradition of male. Now, what is this linear tradition of male? Linear tradition of male, that means male history, male genre, male literature, male history, male genre, male style, male form of writing, male perspective. So look, when you are talking about a writing is not just the compilation of the certain pages. Behind this compilation of the certain pages, so many things are required. That means the family in which you are born and brought up, how are you treated by your family members, accordingly your psyche will develop. The society in which you live, you are from lower class, you are from upper class, how your father has behaved with you and with your brother. Like if your brother, case of the Virginia Woolf was Virginia Woolf is writing in her room of one's own, that how in education women, they were spend less money by the parents, and they used to invest their money for their male child, because they were of the opinion that it is a kind of investment. And what about girls? They are the duties and responsibilities once they will get married, and they are not going to return the money which father and parents they have invested in the girl child. So because you know, ultimately Shravan Kumar, Ram and Budhape Ka Sahara, so many things, so many, you know, this Indian way I am referring this very expression. So they were expend very little money. Like, it is not the current situation, but this is how society has functioned, and to some extent it is functioning today also. So Showalter says that if you look at the process of writing, many such psychological happenings, like how are you treated, accordingly you are going to behave in your writing. So the environment, we are from upper class, from lower class, from middle class, what is the time period to which you belong, which genre of literature suits to you. So the genre of literature that was very prominent and that is considered as very high conception, it is poem. So women, they are said that they are not sufficient, or they are not very comfortable in writing poetry because they do not have that sort of imagination which John Keats and Wordsworth may have, because they are ultimately, erotic and such kind of, means inferior kind of people. So they cannot think about philosophy, art and culture. So you cannot expect from women to have philosophical writing. So what should be their genre of literature, what should be history, what should be their psychodynamics. And if you look at the past writings done by women, just as I exemplified angelic images and monstrous images, these images, not only male writers they have done in, they have portrayed male writers in their novels. Rather, female writers, when they started writing, they have also done portrayal of their female characters in two categories, that is monstrous and angelic in nature. So it means you are appropriating the model of writing that is given to you by your past writer, by male writers. So Showalter says that gynocritics or gynocriticism, it begins at that point when we stop ourselves fitting into the linear structure or linear culture of male. And when you will stop yourself fitting into the linear culture of male, then you will be producer of your meaningful text. You will be creator of your own meaningful text, and this is how you are going to formulate your own history, psychology, genre and so on. The overall structure of writing should be of feminine nature, and this will happen how? When you are relying upon your basic differences, that genetic model which I talked about, that when we are made different, our experiences are different, then let our writing be different from them. And why to be so sensitive that we are different and our writing is talking about the it is metaphorically generated from the reproductive organ. So we should feel inferior that our writing is not matching to the standard of writing created by male writers. No, not at all. So gynocriticism, one point is that it deals with women as reader, and another point is that it deals also with women as writer. So when you are talking about in gynocriticism, again you make in your mind two categories. One is women as reader, another is women as writer. So first of all, when you look at within gynocriticism, women as reader, that means female writers, and they are performing role of reader, and this time they are reading books written not by men but books written by females, right? So the primary duty as per Elaine Showalter of a gynocritic is to read the text written by women, and their women writers have to develop a specific culture, and they have to trace this specificity. And how this specificity can be traced? This specificity can be traced on the basis of unique female experiences. So Showalter celebrates in her article in this second point, gynocriticism, this unique female experiences, and she creates group of gynocritics. And while creating this group of gynocritics in terms of women as reader under gynocriticism, she has exemplified first name, and it's of Patricia Mayer Speaks. And she writes that Patricia Mayer Speaks can be called as first gynocritic who is responsible for this shift from androcentrism to gynocriticism. So how Patricia Mayer Speaks is described as first gynocritic? On the basis of her role as reader. But what she has studied women text, not the text by like earlier feminist critics text of men, but the text of women she has studied, and on that basis Showalter says that Patricia Mayer Speaks, and her book is The Female Imagination, where she has brought into light many such women writers who were existing into the dark and mute zone, who were silent for centuries and centuries. So she has done research over these women writers who were not in limelight, and she brought into existence through her work The Female Imagination. Second work that Elaine Showalter has cited, it's of her own and it is a literature of their own. So same thing in more refined manner Elaine Showalter has done in her book A Literature of Their Own. That means she has again traced the history of women writing. So mind it, if you don't have female history, how can you move ahead? So first thing that you require, it is called as tradition, history. So if you will be history only, then you will be stopping yourself fitting into the linear culture of male writers. So that task is done by first Patricia Specs, and second one it's by Elaine Showalter. Then she has quoted the name of Nina Bayham also, that women's fiction is the work. And then in this category she has exemplified Sandra Gilbert and Susan Gubar's Mad Woman in the Attic, where Sandra Gilbert and Susan Gubar has given their idea of anxiety of influence, anxiety of authorship. It is in against of anxiety of influence of Harold Bloom. That means Harold Bloom is equal to Sigmund Freud and equal to Lacan. That means male model of writing, right? So these examples she quotes under gynocritics. And in gynocritics, again two categories. One is women as reader and another is women as writer. So women as reader is Patricia Specs, Showalter herself, Nina Bayham and Sandra Gilbert and Susan Gubar. And this reading is done on the basis of sameness of the women experiences. So there is a kind of collective consciousness, there is a kind of collective womanhood, and this collective womanhood can be realized only when women, they are feeling this, they are having this internal feeling of sisterhood. The idea of sisterhood is there. So Showalter says that the moment you are reading, you are writing, you should be careful regarding your psychodynamics, your process of history, your process of genre, and your process, all those processes which are helpful in creating a text. Now the next thing which happened in gynocriticism, in gynocritical reading especially, that Showalter is talking about a circle of reading. That means writer is female, reader is female, and the character, that means the heroine of the novel, heroine of the text, is also female. So Showalter is talking in gynocritical reading a circle of reading. That means writer from whom this journey begins, it is penned down through character, female character, and the same experience is transmitted through character to a reader. So when there is a kind of authenticity of experience, and this journey begins from writer to character to reader, and again this circle is reflecting experience wise to writer. So this, in gynocritical reading, the autonomous reading can be tested on the basis of this circlic reading. The journey begins, journey of self-actualization, because you know that this journey of self-actualization is very difficult task. Many heroines in the past, like Virginia Woolf and others, what they did, they tried to understand the process of autonomy, and what happened that at the end of the day they are committing suicide. So heroines of the writers like Virginia Woolf, they are committing suicide. Why they are committing suicide? They are just on the verge of realizing themselves. They are on the verge of actualizing themselves. But finally they break, and they are not able to hold control over their mind, and they surrender themselves. So the main target of gynocriticism is what? Necessary search of female identity in its primary stage. Primary stage of gynocriticism is what? Where you are having necessary search of female identity, and for this necessary search of female identity you are supposed to have self-actualization. Self-actualization, that means you have to discover yourself. Discovery of the self is a very cruel process, and it begins with the process of self-introspection, retrospection, and then you keep on questioning yourself, and this is how at the end you realize yourself and you come up with your conclusion. So in the initial stage of reading of gynocriticism, in the process of reading, female reader has to necessarily search her identity in the process of reading, and it is possible when female reader is trying to associate herself completely 100% with the experiences of the writer. How the experiences of the writer is authenticated, the authentication of the experience of the female writer is on the basis of the cycle of reading. The cycle of reading, the experiences of women writer, the experiences of women writer, it goes to character, female character, and female character to female reader, and this is how this circle is complete. So mind it, in Gynocriticism I have here taken one idea, and this one idea is what? This one idea is the circle of reading should be under Gynocriticism. That means one more concept is here remaining, women as writer. So when you come to women as writer, Showalter develops theoretical models, and they are 4 in number, and undoubtedly once again they are the 4 in number. So the basis of all these models are what? The feminine differences. So in terms of gynocritical writing, Showalter develops genuinely women-centered model, and in this genuinely women-centered model of writing, she is basically talking about 4 points, that is women's writing and women's body, women's writing and women's language, women's writing and women's psyche, and women's writing and women's culture. But remember it always that the basis of all these models is the unique differences of women. So the writers like Virginia Woolf and Elaine Showalter, they have suggested to Elaine Showalter that you are in the danger zone. You can be called an essentialist. You may have many such allegations and many such charges from which perhaps you will not be able to overcome. So you are going to take a very dangerous task because you are touching the poetics of female body. And in touching the poetics of female body, most of the time it happens that separatist culture develops. So it is to see that what Showalter does, because she has already declared that women, they are supposed to be producer of their meaningful text. And when they are supposed to be producer of their meaningful text, from top to bottom, they are going to have their own structures and their own premises of thinking, feeling. So their own literature, their own criticism, and their own history, their own ground. So everything is going to be own and own. And this is how Showalter thinks that coherent theoretical model can be developed. But when we reach to the cultural model, so many questions arise there. And we have to look at that, and section wise, one by one, we will do all these 4 points that she has discussed in the 4 models. So in my next talk, I will throw light on creature feminine, because in this gynocriticism still one point is remaining, that is of creature feminine. Because Showalter has said at one place in her article that feminist criticism is like orphan and it is looking for one unified terminology. And from her side, she tries to give that unique terminology with the heading, that unique terminology called gynocriticism. But question is, what about French feminist critiques? Showalter is ready to give, but are they ready to take? What about creature feminine? And so in my next lecture, probably I'll be dealing with creature feminine along with Lacanian idea and then the 4 models. So if you have any query and question, please, you are invited, and you go through these lectures series wise in sequence so that you may understand the conversation. And thank you.